12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. An anecdote to lift rules descriptions. His book is a synopsis and is meant to complement, not replace. Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. What is essential knowledge for everyone in the current world? Jordan B. Peterson, a renowned psychologist, offers a unique combination of old traditions, hard-won truths, and cutting-edge scientific findings in his solution to this most difficult problems. Dr. Peterson teaches us why skateboarding boys and girls must be left alone, what awful destiny awaits those who criticize too readily, and why you should always touch a cat when you see one on the street in his hilarious, fascinating, and enlightening book. What can we learn about standing up straight with our shoulders back and achieving success from the neurological system of a lowly lobster? Why did the ancient Egyptians consider the ability to pay close attention to be the most important of gods? When individuals grow angry, arrogant, and vindictive, what horrible roads do they take? Dr. Peterson takes a wide trip, covering discipline, freedom, adventure, and responsibility, and reducing the knowledge of the world into 12 simple but profound life principles. 12 Rules for Life shatters current commonplaces in science, theology, and human nature while altering and ennobling its listeners' minds and spirits. Introduction. Jordan B. Peterson is a professor at the University of Minnesota and a Canadian clinical psychologist. He is a psychology professor at the University of Ontario. He has lately become something of an internet celebrity thanks to the popularity of the book 12 Rules for Life, on which this synopsis is based. The road that led to the publication of this book began with a series of postings on the online forum Quora, which enables users to respond to questions submitted by others. The author was pleasantly pleased by the amount of attention his answers generated on Quora, which prompted him to create a book that would enable him to go much further into his original life principles. In terms of politics, the left labels Peterson as a right-winger, while the right labels him as a left-winger. What are his thoughts on the subject? Peterson is an individualist, not a collectivist, on the right or left. Metaphysically, he thrives as an American pragmatist, who has been affected by Freud and Jung's psychoanalytic and clinical thought. Common sense and balance are high on his priority list. The 12 rules are an effort to distill a lifetime's worth of knowledge into a practical remedy to chaos. Peterson sees chaos and disorder and works to reduce them. Order and chaos are the two opposing forces that govern all of life, from the simplest living forms like lobsters to the most sophisticated humans. Chaos connotes the unknown, disaster, misery, and disarray. This includes deception, half-truths, and ignorance. On the other hand, there is such a thing as too much order. For this reason, Peterson advises us not to intervene with children who are skating. While the discipline has its place, we must also allow for development, discovery, and pushing the boundaries. The answer, according to Peterson, is to find a means to balance and harmonize the dismal boundary between order and chaos, like yin and yang. He is honest and clear in his approach to each rule for life. When it comes to liberalism, he is likewise not afraid to cause a disturbance. He was strong enough to confront life straight on, without fear, growing up in the freezing wastelands of northern Alberta, and, without sugarcoating anything, each rule has a little of that spirit. The recommendation is practical and based on the real-life problems of everyday people dealing with life's chaos. The rules provide valuable counsel and insight into the human mind's complexity. They may also be used as a compass to help people find their way in life, a kind of antidote to chaos. Jordan B. Peterson grew raised in Fairview, a small town in northern Canada. It was a harsh and brutal town, the type that nurtures a hardy mentality. We investigate the author's world in the book 12 Rules of Life. We trace the evolution of his mental and emotional well-being formula, as it evolved in his mind and heart throughout his life. With his book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote for Chaos, Peterson became a professor of psychology and eventually an online sensation. He recounts some of the experiences in his life that impacted his worldview in the book. He also embarks on a few journeys into the philosophical labyrinth that gives rise to his rules for life. Each of us has our weight to bear in life, and there is enough to go around. Small acts of compassion may remind you that life is worth living. Remember to pat a cat on the street if it brushes against your leg. It serves as a reminder that stand up straight with your shoulders back can learn a lot from lobsters. Their neurological systems are quite basic, with large, plainly visible neurons, the brain's magic cells. Scientists have been able to trace the cerebral circuitry of lobsters quite precisely. This has boosted our understanding of the anatomy and function of the brain and the behavior of more sophisticated species such as humans. Lobsters and humans have more in common than you would believe. Lobsters are creatures that reside on the ocean bottom. They need a base of operations, a range within which they may hunt for victims and scavenge for stray edible bits and pieces of whatever falls from the never-ending carnage and death far above. They desire a haven where they may go hunting, and, gathering, they are looking for a place to call home because there are so many lobsters. This may be an issue. What if two of them simultaneously occupy the same land, at the bottom of the ocean, and both wish to dwell there? What if there are hundreds of lobsters in the sea, all attempting to earn a livelihood and establish a family? Hundreds of lobsters, all attempting to earn a living and raise a family, crammed into the same congested spot of sand and garbage. This is a challenge that other organisms face as well. Songbirds, for example, engage in intense territorial fights as they migrate north in the spring. The tunes they sing, which seem to humans to be tranquil and lovely, are siren calls and screams of dominance. A little warrior asserting his authority is a stunningly lyrical bird. The wren is a little feisty insect-eating songbird that may be found across North America. A recently arriving wren is looking for a safe site to make a nest protected from the wind and rain. He would want it to be near food and appealing to prospective mates. He also wants to persuade potential rivals for that location to stay away. When I was 10 years old, my father and I constructed a home for a family of wrens. It had the appearance of a Conestoga wagon with a quarter-sized front entry. This made it ideal for wrens, which are little birds, but not so much for bigger birds, who could not fit in. My elderly neighbor also had a birdhouse, which we made for her out of an old rubber boot. At the same time, it had a wide enough aperture for a robin to fly through. She was eagerly anticipating the day when it would be inhabited. A wren quickly spotted our birdhouse, who established himself at home there. During the early spring we could hear his long, trilling melody repeated repeatedly. However, our new bird resident began transporting little sticks to our neighbor's neighboring boot. After he had made his nest in the covered wagon, he overstuffed it so that no other bird, huge or little, could fit within. This preemptive action did not sit well with our neighbor, but there was nothing we could do about it. If we take it down, clean it out, and put it back in the tree, my father said, the wren will simply stuff it full of sticks again. Wrens are little birds with a lot of heart and character. They are adorable, but they are merciless. I had fractured my leg skiing the previous winter on the first run down the hill. I had gotten some compensation from a school insurance policy intended to compensate unlucky, clumsy students. With the money, I bought a tape recorder, which was a high-tech curiosity. My father advised that I sit in the backyard, record the wren song, listen to it, and see what happens. So I walked out into the beautiful spring sunshine and recorded a few minutes of the wren claiming his area with fury via singing. After that, allow him to hear his voice. That little sparrow-sized bird started diving bombing me and my tape recorder, flying back and forth inches from the speaker. Even without the tape recorder, we observed a lot of this kind of behavior. A bigger bird would likely be pushed off his perch by a kamikaze wren if he ventured to sit and rest in any of the trees near our birdhouse. WRENS and lobsters are no longer the same. Lobsters are not able to fly or climb trees. Wrens do not have hard shells. Instead, they have feathers. Because wrens cannot breathe underwater, they are seldom served with butter. They are, nonetheless, strikingly similar in several respects. Like many other species, they are fascinated with their status and place. Thorleif Skjelderup, a Norwegian biologist and comparative psychologist, noted in 1921 that even ordinary barnyard hens create a pecking order. The decision of who is who in the chicken world, much like a pecking order, has significant ramifications for each bird's survival, especially in times of shortage. The star chickens are the birds that always have first dibs on whatever food is spread out in the yard first thing in the morning. After that, they move on to the backup, the third-rate chickens, and so on, down to the bedraggled, partially feathered, and awake wretches at the bottom of the chicken hierarchy. Chickens, like suburbanites, share living quarters. Songbirds, such as wren, do not have a dominating scale, although they do have one. It is only that it is spread out across a larger area. The wisest, strongest, healthiest, and luckiest birds hold and defend excellent territory. As a result, they are more likely to attract good partners and have offspring that survive and flourish. Wind, rain, predator protection, and simple access to greater food result in a significantly less stressful life. Territorial rights are important, and there is little distinction between them and social rank. It is often a life or death situation. If a contagious avian illness spreads across a neighborhood of well-stratified songbirds, the least dominant and most stressed birds, those at the bottom of the bird food chain, are more likely to be affected. The birds at the bottom of the avian food chain are the most prone to get ill and perish. When bird flu viruses and other illnesses spread around the globe, this is also true in human neighborhoods. Poor and anxious people are always the first to die, and they die in bigger numbers. Non-infectious disorders such as cancer, diabetes, and heart disease are also significantly more common. It is stated that when the aristocracy has a cold, the working class dies of pneumonia. Territory-searching among animals causes conflict because the territory is important, and the finest locations are constantly in limited supply. That as a result of the conflict, another issue arises: how to win or lose without the disputing parties suffering high costs. This last item is very crucial. Consider two birds squabbling over a nice nesting location. The engagement has the potential to devolve into a full-fledged physical battle. In such situations, one bird, generally the larger, will finally win, but even the winner may suffer harm due to the struggle. A third bird, an unharmed, cunning onlooker, may swoop in and destroy the now paralyzed winner. For the first two birds, it is not a good bargain. Animals that have to cohabit with others in the same territory for millennia have learned various methods to establish dominance while causing the least amount of feasible harm. For example, a defeated wolf will turn over on its back, exposing its neck to the victor, who will not rip it out. After all, the now dominant wolf could still need a future hunting companion, even if it is as pitiful as his fallen opponent. Bearded dragons have a unique social structure. Waving their front legs peacefully, lizards express their desire for continuous social harmony. While hunting and other moments of high excitement, dolphins emit unique sound pulses to decrease possible conflict between dominant and submissive group members. In the community of living things, such conduct is common. Lobsters are no exception, scuttling about on the ocean bottom. If you capture a few hundred and relocate them to a different place, you may watch their status-forming rituals and procedures. Each lobster will start by exploring the new region to map out its characteristics and partly to locate a suitable hiding spot. Lobsters absorb a lot of information about their environment and retain it. It will immediately retreat and hide. You scare one close to its nest. However, if you shock it from afar, it will dash to the nearest appropriate cover, which it has already located and memorized. A lobster needs a secure haven where it may relax away from predators and the elements. Furthermore, lobsters molt or lose their shells as they mature, leaving them fragile and susceptible for long periods. Once the lobster is safely nestled within, a tunnel beneath a rock provides a wonderful lobster habitat, especially if it is placed where shells and other rubbish may be pulled into position to conceal the entrance. However, each new region may only have a few high-quality shelters or hiding spots. They are very rare and precious. Other lobsters constantly pursue them. As a result, lobsters often contact one another while out exploring. According to researchers, even a lobster reared in solitude understands how to respond when something like this occurs. Its neurological system is pre-programmed with complicated protective and aggressive actions. It moves like a boxer, opening and raising its claws, going backward, forwards, and side to side, copying its opponent and swinging its open feet back and forth. It uses unique jets behind its eyes to aim streams of fluids at its opponent simultaneously. The liquid spray includes a combination of chemicals that provide information to the other lobster about its size, sex, health, and mood. Sometimes a lobster can detect by the size of its opponent's claws that it is much smaller and will give up without a struggle.